James Harden. James Harden, for years, I think he's been one of those people to kind of fool the masses. Because of his style of play, because of the numbers that he puts up. But I am not somebody that was ever fooled by James Harden, because when you see the regular season numbers, they never equate to playoffs. And I've always told people this, is that anybody can look good in the regular season. I'm not saying anybody, because it takes skill. It takes a lot of talent to be able to be consistently good and put up good numbers. Problem is that the playoffs really define you as an athlete. It defines your legacy. It defines your career. Anybody that knows that, you watch football, it's about playoffs. It's about what you do in the biggest moments that make you a legend and an icon, right? James Harden has come up so short in the playoffs over his career that it's arguably laughable. Would you like to know a stat, Al? I'd like to give you a stat that's going to shock you. Do you know that James Harden has the most playoff games in NBA history shooting less than 20%? History. Al's going. So, yeah. So 20%. He has the most games shooting less than 20% in the playoffs. We're talking about an MVP, guy that's put up triple doubles, a guy that has bounced around from team to team because he's not happy. He's been a part of some great teams in his career. Less than 20%. He's shot more than anybody in the league. History. In the history of the league, nobody has ever had more bad games than James Harden in the playoffs. Just think about that. And we've seen it time and time again. We saw it just this season with the Dallas Mavericks, right? We saw I thought it was a game 4 or whatever it was. They looked like dog shit. They looked horrible. But this is what people fail to realize. And you talk to people, you talk to these guys, and they're just like, yo, listen, oh, well, yo, James Harden's bucket. Yeah. Oh, you put James Harden with these guys, and
James Harden is a bucket. But the problem is that people are walking to the situation and they expect one thing that you can't expect James Harden to be is your number 1.
Or your number 2.
Or he'll be a strong number 3, but there's a good reason why when he was really young in his career, he worked so well with OKC, because he wasn't their number 1, he wasn't their number 2, he was their number 3. And he was their 6th man, wasn't he?
Yes.
So James Harden, extremely talented, like probably the best basketball player I probably would have ever encountered in my physical life, you know what I mean? But he's in the NBA. He's in a league of people who are all great basketball players. And his personality and what he wants to be doesn't match what he is. You put him in the right system, that system that he had when he was in Houston, where he was putting up those ridiculous numbers every single year. He'll be able to produce that for you, but he's not going to be able to give you what you need, like you said, during the playoffs, because the playoffs is something completely different. And if you go into the playoffs with him leading you, you're not going to get very far. And it's been proven time and time again.
Yeah, but why? So why are people continue to be duped by this man, by this kept wife, is what I call James Harden? Why they continue to be duped by him?
It's the persona of James Harden. It's not James Harden. It's what our idea of James Harden is.
That's interesting. I think I like that. The idea of what he is instead of what he is in front of you in regards to the present. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, listen, I'm gonna say right now, look right into the camera. James Harden's a failure in the NBA. It's a failure. He is one of those people that, yes, he's a failure.
No, you can't. You're going too far.
He's a failure. If I'm an owner, right, and I'm giving you $40-50 million a season, I am paying you for playoffs. I am not paying you to be a circus act and a sideshow in the regular season. I am paying you to be able to get me from point A to point B and advance in rounds and get to where we need to be. He has not been that guy for a very, very long time. And he continues to have this persona and behave like this diva that he is. You're not.
He's a rock star.
He hasn't been that guy since, like you said, Houston. He hasn't been that guy. The last time he saw a conference final was in Houston. He failed in Brooklyn. He failed in Philly. And he's failing with the Clippers. He's a complete failure.
Brooklyn, the situation in Brooklyn was where they just brought a bunch of personalities in and they brought a bunch of people who should be able to do this. There was no leadership. The who was the coach that they had? Steve Nash. Steve Nash should have never been the coach. They were trying to recreate what happened in Golden State by bringing in a former player who in theory should have known what he was doing, but just because you were a good player doesn't mean you can sit there and be a great coach.
All right, and what's the difference in LA right now, other than the coach? There is none.
In LA, he should be successful. That's what I was like. He should be successful in the situation that he's in right now. The situations in Brooklyn, I can give him a pass on that. In Philly, they were trying to patchwork together things. What happened?
A pass.
I can give him a pass for Brooklyn because he wasn't the only problem in Brooklyn.
Yeah, of course he wasn't the only problem in Brooklyn, but Brooklyn was a disaster because it was mainly him.
He was not the main disaster. I mean, you could put just as much on Kyrie in that situation.
Man, I will tell you that Net fans, if they see James Harden right now, they will throw tomatoes at him. That's how much they hate James Harden, because he quit on court.
There you go. Yeah, he quit on court. But
as bad as KD is, as bad as Kyrie is, and in regards to their stuff, they don't quit on court. James Harden does that everywhere he goes. He's a quitter, and I've never seen, if you're a real hooper and you're somebody that like really respects work ethic, I don't see how you can be able to ever rock with a dude like James Harden, because all he does is quit when situations get dicey. He's a quitter.
He's the real life version of the guy you're playing video games with who turns off the system when he's losing.
100%.
Like that's what it is. And like I said,
why would you continue to have that on your team? Why?
Because he's super talented. He's super talented. You can't take that away from him. He's not a failure. He's not a failure. He's not a bad player. It's what they expect him to be versus what he is. And that's the issue. The issue isn't James Harden. The issue is the people who are hiring James Harden.
Okay, but you just said it. He's super talented. So because he's super talented, people are going to continue to give him chances. If you have a business and you got a dude that's super talented and does a whole bunch of stuff, but he's constantly getting into fights and he's late to work, what are you going to do with that particular employee?
Constantly getting into fights and late to work. Look, I'll be honest with you. I've been at places where the guy who's constantly getting into fights and late to work and able to, because he's been able to serve a purpose. What's the purpose, though? Like, he's super talented. Like Ezekiel Elliott, when he first got to the Cowboys, super talented. One of the best rookie running back seasons I've ever seen, right? If you asked him to quarterback that team, you'd be a fool. He can't James Harden can't do what he's not supposed to do.
Okay, that's fine. But what I'm saying is that every situation he goes into, he tends to make it worse. He made Philly worse because of when he left. Not talking about on the court. When they were playing good, everything's fine. But you got to remember, when he was in Philly, they were up 3-2 against the Celtics and lost because he had 2 dog shit games in 6 and 7. Same thing with Embiid. They tend to choke when it matters the most. So a guy
can you put that all on him though?
Yes, because he does it everywhere he goes. What do you mean? How can you not? If you do it in Houston, if you did it in Brooklyn, if you did it in Philly, and you did it with the Clippers, what am I supposed to think that you are? You failed at every situation because your performance. We're not talking about anybody else's performance. We're talking about James Harden's performance is always dog shit. I just gave you the stat. He has the most games of shooting 20% or less in basketball history. That has nothing to do with anybody else. That's an individual stat.
It's a horrible thing to have to happen.
That's like you being a fan of Jalen Hurts And in the big games, he's throwing 5 interceptions every game.
He's not going to be my quarterback much longer.
At some point, what's going to happen to Jalen Hurts? He's not going to be the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles anymore, is he? And if somebody tells you, oh, well, he's a great player. He got us to certain situations. You're going to be like, what happened to the playoffs? What happened in the divisional round, him throwing 6 picks? It has nothing to do with regular season.
Every single time.
It has everything to do with how you perform when the lights are brightest, and that's playoffs. That's playoffs. And he tends to shrink. So when people show you who they are, they always tell you, believe them. And this is who James Harden's been his entire career. Believe who he is. He's a fraud and a failure. That's all I'm going to say. And anybody want to tell me different, go ahead and pull up stats. And I'll pull up more stats and show you how much of a fraud he is. He's been a fraud his entire career.
He's not a fraud and a failure. He's a diva who's been misused.
So let me ask you a question. How is he supposed to be used?
He's supposed to be used as a third player. He's not, like I said initially, he's not supposed to be the person who leads your team. He's not a leader.
You're gonna pay a third player $40-50 million a year? No.
Now, I wouldn't do that. But if you're James Harden and you've gotten $40 million for the year, are you going to take less? If you know somebody's going to give it to you?
You have no choice at this point if everybody looks at you and says, I'm not giving you that.
But they keep giving it to him.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I'm not knocking James Harden. Of course, it's going to fall on the teams. But what I'm saying is that at some point, that card is going to run dry. He's not going to be able to play that shit no more. In regards to jumping from team to team without people starting to look and say, you know what? I'm not giving you that type of money. If you want to come to my team,
get your bag. Keep doing it till they stop paying you, James.
Yeah. You go ahead and cape for that bum. He a bum. Failure.
Just don't come to the Knicks.
Yeah, I can't wait till he comes to the Knicks. I can't wait. Can't wait till he comes to the Knicks.
Don't do that.
I wish
my mama a bitch. Why don't you? Why would you?
I wished him to come to the Clippers. Don't let me do the juju and let him come to New York, because I will.
Don't do that. I'll never speak to you again.
That's fine. I will be happy to see James Harden corrode your franchise like he's corroded every single franchise he's touched since he's been in the NBA. Moving on. Moving on. That fraud.
Don't talk to me like that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to talk harsh of you, but I'm sick of him.